If I had been there, I would have said, "O you, the seed of happiness in the sorrow garden of my synchronized loneliness, my grief, my crumpled paper, my half-finished cigarette, my broken record, my half-smoked cigarette. I am Susan Wade, a retired Special Operations Unit commander who swore to live her own quiet life. As someone who was convinced into mandatory retirement after participating in Special Forces operations numerous times, I'm speaking to you now. But here's what they don't want you to know. Nothing is as they tell you on television. Simply put, nothing is as you see it. In this blood-red silent ocean, those who rule the universe make you see it this way because they want you to see it this way. Actually, the event is painted from a completely different window. I will tell you one by one as a woman police commander who swore to live her own life. And what I'm about to reveal will shock you to your core. Date: May 25th, 1993. Don't forget this date. What we call the key essentials start here. Because history's memory record's never to be erased, this always happens. But you don't know what really happened that day, do you? 27 years I've been in this profession. 27 years I've worked day and night, regardless of whether I had a family or not, for the security of this country. I was forced into early retirement due to circumstances beyond my control. But I know that some truths should never be buried. Some stories must be told so that future generations don't repeat the same mistakes. This isn't just an assassination story. This is something much more terrifying. This is a story about critical moments when a nation's destiny could change. This is the story of how the power of technology was tried to be crushed in the grip of politics. And most importantly, this is the painful story of how our geniuses like Ellen Ochoa were sacrificed. But wait until you hear what they were really working on. That day in Istanbul, the humidity was 89%. There were storm warnings in the meteorological bulletins. But the real storm was about to break on the country's political scene. When I woke up at 6 that morning, I didn't know I would experience one of the most difficult days of my life. Do you want to know what woke me up at 5 a.m.? The phone rang at 5 in the morning. The caller was a high-level official. His voice was trembling and panicked. "Susan, there's an emergency meeting. Just come alone. Don't bring anyone with you," he said. Such calls never brought good news. An assassination attempt was being prepared. Intelligence and security, hand in hand, arm in arm, deliberately turned a blind eye to this assassination. But you don't know who they wanted to kill yet. When I entered the meeting room, I felt the weight of the atmosphere. 3 people were sitting at the table. I knew one of them. The other 2 were strangers to me. When they started talking, I realized this wasn't just an operational meeting. This was a meeting where decisions that would change a country's destiny were made. "Susan, we're going to give you a very classified file," said the person I knew. "The person mentioned in this file will be eliminated within the next week. Your job will be to make it look like a terrorist attack. The name to be killed was a great commander. Officially a commander, of course. His real profession was engineering. This engineer commander was working on a series of projects, and what he was developing could have changed everything. When I opened the file, I saw the photograph of Colonel Dr. Michael Adams. He was 53 years old, with graying hair, harboring deep determination in his eyes. A military academy graduate, but also graduated first from Stanford Mechanical Engineering. Later, he received advanced technology training in the U.S. But here's the part that will blow your mind. He didn't share these works with anyone but himself. He was just clever enough to set up teams pretending to work on simple machines. The teams were working on various agricultural machines. However, he had a completely different, what could be called colossal project in his mind. A project where not even a single person's nose in his own country would bleed. Do you want to know what this secret project really was? According to what was written in the file, Colonel Adams managed a research center that appeared to develop agricultural technologies. But in reality, he was working on something much bigger. He was developing a technology that brought a revolutionary approach to air defense systems. If this technology succeeded, it could make our country completely independent in terms of protecting it from external threats. Since he added a new dimension to the air defense system, he was very careful to design the raw materials he would need in a way that could be found in daily life. And this is where it gets really interesting. The biggest advantage of his project was that it didn't need expensive materials that had to be imported from abroad. The colonel had succeeded in developing a world-standard defense system using natural resources found in our country and simple industrial products. This meant both economic independence and technological freedom. But there was something about his personal life that made him vulnerable. He had no one. There was a man he was in love with. Then, believing that his love was nothing but a fallacy, he had abandoned everything and everyone. He believed in a value. He had developed that project to soothe his existential pains. Colonel's private life was described in detail in the file. In his youth, he had been engaged to his colleague, Dr. Alice Coleman. However, Alice's sudden departure abroad and her marriage to someone else there had deeply shaken the colonel. After this incident, he completely focused on his work, giving up on his private life. But his real motivation wasn't personal pain. Character. Ellen Ochoa. Ellen Ochoa was the colonel's closest working partner on the project. She was 32 years old, an electronics engineer, and also a software expert. Although she appeared calm and controlled from the outside, she was a woman with storms raging inside. Ellen's story was also quite complex. Her childhood was filled with traumas. Her mother was a depression patient and had committed suicide when Ellen was 14. Her father was an alcohol addict, and Ellen's education was entirely through her own efforts. But you haven't heard the most shocking part yet. Scene 1. Exterior night. It was a cold May night in Ankara. Ellen and the commander were standing face to face in the garden of the research center. The pale light filtering from the building's windows mysteriously illuminated both their faces. Commander, you need to examine all these situations meticulously. The commander was an officer attached to the security unit. He was responsible for Ellen's security in the project. However, Ellen suspected that his real job was not to protect her, but to watch her. Ellen, I'm tired, Commander, very tired. I'm also tired of wandering on the thin line between life and death. And what she said next revealed everything. Ellen's voice was tired, but at the same time harbored a rebelliousness. The pressure on her had increased in recent weeks. The colonel's work had reached a critical stage, and this situation also affected Ellen. My mother couldn't read or write. She didn't understand poetry either, but she hung laundry beautifully. Then one day she beautifully hung herself too. Anyway, while saying these sentences, Ellen's eyes had drifted into the distance. The painful memories of her childhood always came back at the most unexpected moments. Her mother's death had fundamentally changed her outlook on life. Television single channel, Warsaw Pact, Cold War, nuclear threats. I see humanity is bleeding. I want to give blood. Our blood types are incompatible. I'm devastated. Do you see the pattern forming here? In 1993, the world was still experiencing the effects of the Cold War. Every day on television there were conflict news, political crises, and threats. Ellen was trying to sign a giant project in her small world within this chaos. No lie, I've always wanted to die throughout my life. Think about it. There are over 8 billion people in the world. So what need is there for me? There's no need for me. There's no need for me. These words of Ellen worried the commander, but she wasn't finished revealing her darkest thoughts. Now, in a little while, I'll go home and take a shower. Instead of strangling myself with the shower head, I'll wash myself, because my fatigue has a meaning like living. This is such a dilemma. Ellen's paradoxical expressions reflected the contradiction she lived within. On one hand, she questioned life. On the other hand, she held on to life by grasping the importance of the project she was working on. Commander, I don't understand you. I don't understand what you're saying. The commander was sincerely expressing his confusion. It wasn't easy to understand Ellen's complex inner world. Ellen, no harm done. How many more people didn't understand me? Don't worry about it. But her next words would seal their fate. I will finish this project eventually, because I swore an oath. Don't worry, I keep my word. And that's when everything changed. These last sentences reflected Ellen's character trait. No matter how depressive and tired she was determined to keep her word. The secret details of the project, what they didn't want you to know. The system Ellen was working on included a software system that could detect enemy aircraft and missiles and automatically neutralize them. When the software was integrated with the hardware developed by the colonel, it could truly protect the country's airspace. But here's the part that terrified the global powers. The most important feature of the system was its resistance to enemy electronic warfare systems. Ellen had developed software using mathematical algorithms and encryption techniques. The data within the system could not be corrupted by the enemy. Midnight work sessions, where the real magic happened. Ellen usually worked at night. During the day when other researchers were at the center, she had to hide her real work. Only Colonel Adams knew what she was really doing, and what she did that night changed everything. That night, too, when she went home, she sat at her computer. There were tens of thousands of lines of code on the screen. Each line had been written for her country's security. As Ellen's fingers danced on the keyboard, the last image of her mother appeared in her mind. Mom, while you lost hope in life, I'm creating hope for my country, she murmured. She finished her work at 4 a.m. She'd completed the system tests, given the final version of the algorithms. Now they could move to the integration stage with the colonel's hardware. But they didn't know what was coming. When Ellen went to bed that night, she didn't know their lives were in danger. The assassination plans had reached the final stage. Within the next week, both Colonel Adams and Ellen would be eliminated. And here's where I, Susan Wade, come in. As Susan Wade, I would do everything in my power to stop these plans. But the system was so powerful that succeeding alone would be very difficult. I needed to warn Ellen and the colonel. But how? The web of conspiracy ran deeper than anyone imagined. What I discovered next would shake you to your core. This wasn't just about one project or two brilliant minds. This was about a systematic elimination of anyone who threatened the global power structure. Do you want to know who was really behind it? The meeting room where I received that classified file wasn't just any government building. It was a shadow facility where international decisions were made. The 3 men in that room represented interests that spanned continents, and Ellen Ochoa was about to become their next target. But I had a plan that nobody saw coming. This story began like this. In the following days, I will continue to tell you what happened, the connection between Ellen's fate and the colonel's project, and the truth that those secret forces were so afraid of. Because some truths shouldn't remain hidden. Some stories must be told so that geniuses like Ellen Ochoa don't die in vain. And what happened next will leave you speechless. Are you ready for the truth they tried to bury?